Hello and welcome or welcome back to my channel. My name is Nicole, and today I'm going to be sharing with you what I am currently reading. So, as usual, I am going to go over anything that I have DNF'd since my last video, which means I did not finish it. I'm going to talk about what I have finished since my last update and the two books I am currently reading. So I'll go ahead and put up on the screen where I am currently at as of my last currently reading video, which would have come out a week ago. And let's get into it today. I want to try and keep this video reasonably brief. If I'm looking down, it's because I'm looking at my my notebook. That is basically my brain. Okay, so starting with my DNFs, I am actually going to start with a book that I was reading on my Kindle. The book I am reading on there is The Unfair Advantage by Aaron Burke. So this is a book that I'm reading for a family book club read, but I don't think I'm going to finish it, guys. In fact, I know I'm not going to finish it. Shh. Don't tell my family. No, I'll tell them. We have a thing where if we're really not feeling a book, we cannot finish it. Everybody else will continue reading it, and we could still go on Zoom and chat with one another and obnoxiously join in the discussion about a book that we've never read. And so yeah, that's my plan. I'm not truly going to read it, and the reason is I really don't think I'm the intended audience for this book. I really truly think this book is designed for people who are seeking or at the start of trying to accomplish a fairly large goal or something they consider a dream, or they've been given a dream that they're trying to bring to fruition, but they're struggling with it because they're just getting discouraged by obstacles that they're running into. I'm really just not enjoying it. It's really a struggle. I'm just letting it go at this point. The Unfair Advantage is 240 pages, so that will come off my page count. The next book that I DNF'd was off my to be read list for the month, and that book is The Great Alone by Kristin Hannah. So I was actually looking forward to reading this book. My problem with this book was just simply I realized that this was going to be another book that was going to make me ugly cry, and it almost felt like that was the sole purpose of the book. So, The Great Alone is about a family of three. So, the mother, the father, and I believe their 13-year-old daughter at the beginning of the book. And the father is a Vietnam War vet who, ever since he's come back from the war, he has come back a changed person. And he is just angrier than he used to be in theory, because I feel like I read less than 10% of this book. I read maybe the first three chapters. That's what I did. In the first three chapters, there are indications that he was never really a great guy to the mom. Part of the premise of the book is that they move to Alaska and onto this like very remote like piece of property. And then the mom and the daughter realize that they're stuck there with the father who's just going crazier and crazier and becoming more and more violent. And so I just realized if the book is already starting out with him being violent, that the entire rest of this rather long book was just going to be full of more violence. And I realized I really just don't want to read about that. So I decided very quickly and very early on, like I said, after the first three chapters, to DNF the book and just say, nope, I don't want to do this. I don't want to go there. That's sticking with one of my goals for this year, which is to decide whether or not I want to finish a book by the time I get to 10%. The Great Alone is 545 pages off my reading count. Okay, so that gets us already moving on to books that I have finished. And the first one on that list is Animal Farm by George Orwell. So this book was not on my January TBR. It's not actually even my book. This is my son's book. And I just borrowed it from him. And this came up in a funny way. So I was on a reading sprint. There were a handful of us who stayed up a Saturday night and read all of the Animal Farm and didn't get off the sprint until we were done. And it was so much fun reading it with other people. We were all kind of like staggered at different times reading it to ourselves. But Animal Farm's a super short book. So most of us got through it and we were all just blown away. So if you don't know, Animal Farm is about a farm of animals that is originally called the Manor Farm until one day all the animals decide that they've had enough and they stage a rebellion. This is an allegorical story about the Russian Revolution, I believe. The tie-ins are so amazing. Now, I don't know a ton about that time period, so I just had to take the story exactly as it is, which was kind of fun because it made it a allegorical story where I just focused on the book to my life connection. And a lot of other people who were reading it did the same thing. And this, I've got to say, was an amazing book. It was a 5-star read for me, like right from the get go. I think what I thought was amazing about this one, it read so much smoother and faster and quicker and than I was expecting. You hear about Animal Farm, and I don't know what I was thinking of the writing style, but if you haven't read this before, pick it up and read it. Even if you don't know the whole background of the story, you will still get something out of this. Animal Farm is a nice 88 pages. It does not apply to my my page count because it's not a book that I own. At least it was a short book. I have 2 books that I am currently reading, and I'll just go ahead and pick the book that I have on top. And that book is An Equal Music. Oops, sorry, this cover's super shiny. And this book is by Vikram Seth, who, yes, is the author of A Suitable Boy, which, if you know about The Suitable Boy, it is one of the longest books that has been written in the English language. An Equal Music, to tell you, is about 2 people, Michael and Julia. And they met in Vienna and fell in love and sort of had their own love affair going. They were both part of a music program there. They're both musicians and they were playing music together and also being together. And then, for a variety of reasons, Michael has a crisis in his life and in his music career and ends up kind of stepping away from everything, including Julia. And this book is about them losing that relationship, finding one another again, and everything that happens from there. This book was not what I was expecting. And that's my own fault, I'm realizing at this point. So I'm maybe about halfway through. I'm doing this mainly as an audiobook. At first, I wasn't really liking this book. The difficulty I was having with this book was because I really wanted it to be a shorter, suitable boy. I wanted this book to be taking place in India and to be about families and characters there, and it is none of those things. This book takes place in England, predominantly in London, I believe, and has English characters and no families. The narrator is British, or at least has a British accent, and like it was just ruining everything that I was expecting. And so that was actually a hurdle for me to get over. And here's the funny thing, I almost DNF'd this book. And then it has this one scene on the bus that like blew my mind because it reminded me of one of the things that I like in A Suitable Boy, which is Vikram Seth's ability to write dramatic moments. He is a master at writing those scenes. And that happened, I'm not kidding you, right at the moment when I was about to DNF this book. And I was like, okay, I gotta at least find out what happens. And so I kept reading and I kept going. And the book actually got a lot better from there. And since then, there's been like 3 or 4 or 5 other moments that I found, what? What? Like things just keep happening that I don't expect to be happening and going in directions that I don't expect. And I'm actually starting to like this book. Another huge feature in this book is that the main character, Michael, is part of a quartet and or quintet depending on what piece of music they're playing, but it's all about like chamber music and being a musician and the life of a musician. I think he does such a good job of helping you to really understand what it's like to be one of those musicians up there playing Mozart or Beethoven or Bach or that kind of thing. And there are so many allusions to great works of classical music in this that I've actually started making a playlist. So it's not an extensive playlist, it's not a list of every song referenced in here, but I am including some of the classical pieces on it that are most prominently featured in this book. I'm enjoying it on the audiobook, and I'm definitely gonna keep going with this one. Um, yeah, somehow he has pulled me in. I'm sucked in. I want to know what happens at the end of this. So there's that. The other book I'm reading, totally different genre, The Poppy War by R.F. Kuang. So this is her debut novel. It is a fantasy, and this book is about Rin, who you can see here on the cover. This book is more or less so like supposed to be sort of a retelling or a reimagining of the Sino-Japanese, the Second Sino-Japanese War, so a war between China and Japan, as we would know them today. Um, and it just covers what happens with her when she finds that she's at a point in her life where something has to change or her life is going to start going in a direction she doesn't want. And so she ends up even though she's poor and from an uneducated background, more or less so, testing into the Empire's elite military school. So this is a military fantasy. It does have a little bit of the I wouldn't say it's totally a dark academia vibe, but there is like the first probably half the book is in an academy setting. So you kind of get to go through that with her. And then now I am about more than halfway through the book, and she is now done with school, and you're getting to the war part of this book. I'm surprised by this book. This book has gotten a lot of hype. I've heard a lot of people who love fantasy read this book, and a lot of them seem like they tend to recommend it a lot. And it's good. I think I'm gonna say the writing style is amazing. I think she's an incredible writer, and I think that's the main reason I'm still reading this book, because I don't know that the book and the story itself is moving along the way that I want it to. I feel like we're spending too much time in parts of the book that I don't really care that much about. But that said, her writing style and is just so good that I almost start to not care about some of the flaws that are in the book, which is probably why I'm still reading it. But it does feel a little long, and I kind of wish it was only like 2 or 300 pages, I've gotta be honest. So I am gonna finish it. I'm past the point of no return. I'm finishing this book. I'm on page, 318. Yeah, it's being finished. Reading sprints help me. So, yeah, I guess that brings us to the end. Like I mentioned in my last currently reading, I'm going to be moving my challenge updates to the end of the month. So, when I do my monthly wrap up, that's going to be including like the last of the books that I've read and that kind of thing. And then we'll also include all at one time an update on where I am with my reading challenges. Um, you know, other than my number, wherever I ended up putting that on the screen. So you can see on the screen, this is where I ended with the number of books or pages that I have read so far. I hope you enjoyed this. Let me know if you've read any of these books and you have enjoyed them. And for the 2 books that I've DNF'd, let me know if you think there's a good reason that I should actually keep reading them. I don't think there is. Have a great day, and I will see you next time. Bye.